Thank you, School of Rock, for the walk-on music. That was awesome of you. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to franchising. Before we get into my chat today, I want to thank the IFA, the board, the staff, for the opportunity to stand on the stage with you today. I want to thank Fordham International, the event company that pulled all of this amazing event together. You know, if you think about it, community, education, networking, educational programs, best practices, and legislative support are what the IFA does for all of us. Franchisees, franchisors, service providers, vendors, everybody associated in the franchise community. So if you become a franchisee or if you become a franchisor, join the IFA. It's a smart investment. My name is George Knauf. I bought my first franchise after I'd been downsized. I'd arrived in the office one day, dropped my stuff off, was pouring my first cup of coffee, had a full schedule ahead of me. And my boss, now friend, had walked in and said, "Listen, come and see me before you hop on your first call." So I walked into his office and he said, "You know, we've had these challenges in the travel industry that the airlines are not paying commissions anymore, and that's going to change the world of travel agencies. So, well, long story short, you're being downsized." That day, my entire office was downsized. The next day, the entire West Coast office was downsized. So I got to pack all of my stuff from my desk into a box and carry it out to the car, drive home. I had a long drive home. And on that drive, I got to try to figure out how to tell my then new wife that I'd been downsized, that I didn't have a plan because, no, we weren't looking for it. And we may not be able to pay the mortgage the next month. Now, story has a good side because a few months later, I'm working with a new franchisor with the same boss because he got downsized too. And it was selling Web Solutions franchises. I thought they were pretty cool. I kept telling people coming in as candidates about the systems and about the company and about what they could build. And in the process, I sold myself because I bought the franchise for Northern Virginia. And within a year, my franchise was listed in the book of lists for the Washington Business Journal as one of the fastest growing web solutions companies, not just franchises, but companies in Northern Virginia, a very tech-savvy market. A big turn of events for me. And in the past 25 years, since that time, since that franchise, I have not taken a paycheck, not a single paycheck from a company that I didn't own. Now, it's been my experience, and this is not scientific, but it's been my experience that 95% of the people looking for franchises the first time are trying to solve a problem. They've been downsized, they've been fired, they don't like their boss, they travel too much for work, they want more time with their family, they've got different priorities, they don't feel that they're achieving what they could. They're trying to solve some sort of problem. The other 5%, everything is freaking awesome, and they're just trying to make it better. Now, overwhelmingly, the 5% are people that are already successful in business in some way, shape, or form, an independent business owner, a franchise business owner, a multi-unit business owner, or potentially even a franchise executive who sold themselves on the product they represent. Many years ago, I went to do a speaking tour at the University of Alabama where I graduated. And the head of the Career Center had organized a speaking tour, and he's giving me a tour of campus because a lot had changed since I had been there last. And he was talking about how he had been reluctant to apply for the PhD program at the university where he got his bachelor's and he got his master's. He was reluctant to apply for the PhD program. And at a social event, the president of the university walks up and he's chatting with him and he says, "Listen, I've noticed that you haven't applied for the PhD program. Why is that?" And he said, the head of the Career Center said, "I don't know that I need it. Why would I apply? It doesn't really make itself necessary in my career path." And the president looked at him and he said, "That's our product. Do you believe in our product?" And not long after, he applied for the PhD program. I did the same, but it was in franchising. So when you look at what people use franchising for, I was trying to solve a problem. I realized when I was downsized, even though it was from a very successful, very large franchise company, that I was not the one in control until I owned the business. There's an old quote from Mark Twain. There are two most important days in your life. Day number one is when you're born. Day number two is when you figure out why. I found my people. I found my purpose. My purpose is standing here in front of you today to help you find yours, to help the thousands of people that I've worked with over the years find theirs, and to help the people I'll work with in the future find theirs. My purpose is to help you find your why and your path. And I believe franchising is a very strong tool to use for empire building, for growth, for multi-generational wealth transfer. I think our industry is poised to become one of the most important business opportunities that we've known in modern times, and available to a huge pool of potential owners for their personal growth. Legacy. Legacy is how people remember you. Now, let's face it, most of us are not going to build buildings with our names on them. We're not going to have monuments in our name. And I'm not suggesting that a franchise would be a legacy. Franchise is a tool. Franchise is a resource. Franchise is how you build, potentially, your legacy. Because unlike a job, a franchise can free up time. A franchise can free up or create new resources. A franchise can create relationships and community and contacts. We create legacy by impacting the people that work with us, work for us. We create legacy by spending time with our family, not time in a job, not time on the road. We create legacy. We create legacy by contributing to our community, by doing good things for people who need it. We create legacy. Franchising is a tool to create your legacy. You're not going to create a legacy in a job in virtually all cases. If heaven forbid you passed away today, your job will be advertised tomorrow. There's no missing. There's no legacy. You were doing a job. Whatever work you do builds somebody's asset, somebody's dream. If you're working in a job, you're a tool for somebody else's dream. You're building somebody else's dream. You can build your own instead. What will your legacy be? In my 30 years in franchising, there has been a massive evolution in business and in franchising in particular. When I first started in franchising, most of the candidates that I talked to on a daily basis were in the twilight of their career, 57 to 62 years old, closing on a retirement from their corporate job, and they wanted a little extra money in retirement. They weren't looking to change the world. They weren't looking to build legacy. They weren't looking to build an empire. They wanted a little extra money for travel or to see the grandkids. There's nothing wrong with that. But most of the franchise opportunities I would see or come across on a regular basis were built for that owner-operator, mom-and-pop business, stand behind the counter, greet your neighbors, sell them a product or service. The industry was building franchises for the people who were available to run them. It all worked at the time. But what happened starting in the late 80s, especially, is that companies got very comfortable with downsizing, with letting people go. Before that, if there were downsizings, it was typically because a division or a company was underperforming. They needed to cut costs to survive, which the CEOs didn't want to do because they tended to be more sales, outgoing, type A personalities. They wanted those people to help grow the company. They didn't want to downsize. But somewhere along the way, CEOs tended to come from the accounting ranks or the CFO ranks. And CFOs don't grow the same way salespeople grow. CFOs grow through acquisitions and mergers. They cut costs. They control costs. Then if you're going to grow through mergers and acquisitions, you have to be able to control your stock price, what your shares sell for on the open market. Interestingly enough, labor is a big cost for public companies. And if you lay off a bunch of people, the stock market is going to look at it as more money to the bottom line. And your shares are going to go up in value. And when your shares go up in value, you have more capital available for mergers and acquisitions, which is the only way many of these companies know how to grow. So layoffs and downsizings have become commonplace. So companies broke the trust with the employees. Now, employees have returned the favor. They've said, well, if I can't trust you, if I can't count on you, then when I want a raise or promotion, I'm going to float my resume on a website or go on LinkedIn, and I'm going to talk to new companies. I'm going to take all of the training that you gave me, all the insider information you gave me, and I'm going to transport it someplace else and make it their benefit. And then 18 months later, you may quit that company too. Along the way, though, what happened was that employees figured out they're valuable. They started to understand their value, and we started to see them showing up in franchise inquiries. Now, initially it was complex because we still had those franchises that were built for the little mom and pop folks in the twilight of their career, but we had corporate executives showing up, people that knew how to build companies, people that knew how to run teams, people that had big goals and expectations. They wanted to build empires. So initially, franchisors started to take those mom and pop models and say, how do we tweak and tune this? How do we make this work for these multi-unit owners, these empire builders? And in some cases, they figured out equations to make that work. Along the way, though, as these top tier, best of breed candidates kept showing up, new franchises coming into the market said, let's just build systems for them. Let's build empire building franchises. Let's build franchises that you can build legacy with. So we still see in the market mom and pop opportunities. You can still come in at a low cost, low expense, work behind the counter, drive the van, whatever it is that that franchise does, and start at that more entry level, but more and more and more, we see empire building franchises coming into the market. And these franchises are built to scale. They bring high technology. They bring resources and supply chain and marketing programs. They bring all of the tools that this best and brightest candidate needs to go build this empire. Now, when I started in franchising, there were somewhere between 1,000 and 1,200 brands. This 30 years ago. Today, by some counts, there are somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 brands at some level of development, at some level of existence. From just an idea to beginning to be registered to brand new brand with no franchisees to emerging brands with small pool of franchisees to mature brands, even over the hill brands, brands that maybe are past their prime or their market has changed. Sorting that pool is your project. The hard part about that is that the first step that most people take is to go to a search engine, Google's pretty common, and search franchise opportunities or best franchises or some sort of search term that's going to result in thousands or hundreds of thousands, even millions of results. And you look at that number and you go, oh my God. And then you look at the first ones, and the first ones are clearly ads and they're hard selling, and it may not even be a franchise. It might be a lead generator who's going to go sell those leads to somebody or a lot of people. And if you click on a button and you fill out a form, you think it's for one franchise, all of a sudden 20 franchise salespeople are calling you. It's complicated. It's complicated. Every franchise is looking for the franchisees that will be successful in their branding, grow, and they have to be competitive. So one of the first mistakes people make after they run that search, and this is a big mistake, is that since they can't sort that field easily in a search engine or on a web portal, is that they say, well, what am I a raving fan of? What do I love? Because if I love it, everybody will love it. I like ice cream, so I look at ice cream franchises. I like Five Guys, so I'm going to look at Five Guys, and this is the gym that I like. I'm going to go look at that gym. And then afterwards, I like to go sit in a sauna or do a cold plunge. I'm going to look at that franchise too. Here's the challenge. The role of the consumer and the role of the owner are two very different roles. It's hard to envision having a bad experience at your favorite restaurant or gym or what have you, but you may not be very good at running it because the role was built for a particular model. Remember that term, model. As you begin this process, your goal will be to match your model to the franchise you look at to at least get into the right neighborhood. There are other considerations like all of the background information on the company, how they're performing, the executives, the financials, the FDD, validation, on and on and on. But first, let's get to the right neighborhood for you. That neighborhood won't be a category of companies because even take gyms, even within the gym category or the restaurant category, Different franchisors build different models. So the fact that one gym fits you doesn't mean that all gyms fit you. The fact that one restaurant fits you doesn't mean that all restaurants fit you. What you're looking for is a franchise that fits your management skills and how you like to manage, your sales skills and how you like to sell, your marketing skills and how you do marketing, or whatever ratio of those types of skills that you have or want to use. It also includes how you want to work, what kind of lifestyle you want to build, what your goals are, what you're building to, what you want to create in the long run. That's all part of your model. The more you map that out ahead of time, which is what we do with our candidates, the closer you're going to get to the neighborhood that you want to go. But the hard part is still sorting that field of 4,000 brands by model, and there's not a franchise website out there that does that. So you're going to have to do it manually or work with somebody like me. So over the past 25 years, we investigate companies, we build the model from their side based on their most successful franchisees, and we track companies. We have a radar screen that tracks franchise companies across the industry. The interesting thing is we also track franchise executives, about 200 of them. And these are movers and shakers in the franchise world with franchise brands. They're in development, they're in operations, they're in training, they're in support. These are people that really know what they're doing. Some of them are in this room today. Many of them are in this room today. Because we know, even if we're looking at an emerging brand, if we see one of those people show up, it just got interesting. Because that franchise is beginning to staff with people that know how to build franchise brands and make franchisees successful and make them happy. That should be the goal of every franchise brand in the universe: happy, wildly successful franchisees. And so we know when particular executives start showing up that emerging brands run by founders are now becoming franchise brands that know what they're doing. And when we see multiple of these executives congregating in a brand, we know it's off to the races, that they're going to build something special. Okay? So there's a lot that we track. You're going to see a couple of terms as you look at franchises. The first one that'll pop up, probably a lot, is semi-absentee, this idea that you cannot be in the business all the time. A lot of people mistake that to I can make an investment and money just falls from the sky. Anybody that presents that is wrong. They are wrong. It does not work that way. I first saw semi-absentee as a business model back in the early 90s, and it had been around for a while then, with hair care concepts. Fantastic Sam's, Great Clips, Super Cuts, Sports Clips. And at the time, it was a way to give corporate executives who wouldn't leave their jobs because they weren't worried about being downsized, it was still good times for them, a way to get their toe into franchising and begin building an asset. But the deal was you still had to put 20 hours a week, give or take, into your franchise. This was not a throw money at it and walk away. And even then, that's not an easy road. It wasn't fast, easy money. It was a path. And because they had their job, they didn't need to pull money out of the business, so they could keep reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting and reinvesting. They didn't need to pull it out. This wasn't their paycheck, their income. Okay? So that was where it began. It worked well. Those brands went in and consolidated. This is what franchising does, is consolidate fragmented, inefficient industries. They went in and consolidated much of that hair salon business. Other franchise brands watched that success, thought that was a great sales pitch. That's great marketing. And so they tried applying the semi-absentee tag to what they were doing. And it didn't fit in a lot of cases. There are some decent franchises out there that are semi-absentee. It takes a lot of investigation to find out what the role really is and what your time commitment is. It will be work. You will have to work your business. There is no getting out of that. But you may find a franchise where you can keep a job as you start, but it's going to have systems built specifically for that. And you're going to have to validate with existing franchisees that they have run their business in that way, either from the beginning or at what point they started after launching, that they could go semi-absentee. If you think about it, large multi-unit owners are all semi-absentee on a unit level, but they work their business full-time. Okay? So be very careful around the concept of semi-absentee. Very careful. You will also see people talking online and saying, semi-absentee never works anyplace, no how. That's not correct either. It's somewhere in the middle. But be careful. Be very careful when you see that term. The term that I think is, at this point in time, still an absolute, is absentee. We have not seen an absentee franchise in the formats that you'll see in this room, smaller formats, work. We have not seen it work. Absentee is not a player. If we were talking large-scale investments like a Ritz-Carlton hotel, maybe. They have that model. But it is a massive, massive investment and not something most people can do. So plan on running your business, plan on controlling your destiny, plan on building your empire, and be one of those hugely successful, happy franchisees. As you go through this process, use experts. Call on people like me. Call on accountants. Call on lawyers. If you hire a lawyer to help you through this process, make sure they are a dedicated franchise attorney, not your family lawyer who took a retainer from you and then goes and starts trying to learn about franchising. It can cost you a fortune, and they're possibly going to be wrong. Find a lawyer who does franchise law as their focus and work with them. If you need referrals, give me a call. But any dedicated franchise attorney you find, probably perfectly capable of helping you review an FDD and so forth. Okay? Just make sure a dedicated lawyer. As you begin this search, you already know your why. Why do you want to start a business? Why do you want to invest? Why should you take the risk? Which I don't think the difference in risk between franchise and job is as big as it used to be. But your why is going to be important. You know that. There's hundreds of books on it. You've heard people talking about it before. You know that your passion, your drive, your why will be important. But there's more whys. Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, says the word why in asking it in every circumstance, over and over, is the core of the success of Amazon.com. Things are going good, why? Things are going bad, why? Here's the new programs and how we want to run them, why? Ask why, and when you get an answer, ask why again, and when you get that answer, ask why again. Understand the franchises you're looking at. You're going to hear overviews and see videos and talk to franchisees, and the first answers anybody will give you are the easy answers. They don't have depth. You're looking for depth. You want to understand these businesses, their models, how they work, so that you can evaluate, can you be successful there? Along the way, because if you're talking to a good franchise, this is not a sales process. This is a mutual evaluation process. They should be evaluating you as well. And if either you or they figure out this is not a match, you or they should feel comfortable closing the file. For you, it's to make sure that you don't get into a business that you're not going to be happy in or might not succeed in. For the franchisor, if you come in and fail, they fail too. They lose money too. So not only do they lose money, but then your failure has to be reported in their franchise disclosure document, and the next people coming in are going to see that and maybe not want to buy the franchise, even if they fit the franchise. So this should not be a sales process. If you're talking to a franchisor and you feel this is like talking to a used car dealer, close the file, walk away. This is not a hard sell process. It should never be a hard sell process. The franchisor should educate you on their brand, their systems, how they operate, and at the same time, they should learn about you to try to figure out if you fit, if you can be that happy, wildly successful franchisee in their system. Scale. I think when people hear the word scale or growth, they think it's out of greed. It's not out of greed. When you had a job, you always wanted a promotion. You always wanted more responsibility to make more money, to achieve more. In our world, we achieve more through scale. We grow units, we grow territory. We grow the performance of each unit and territory. We grow into multi-unit territories. We grow into new roles. So from franchisee to regional developer or something along those lines. Scale frees up time. Scale gives you capital. Scale puts you in a position to take complete control of your empire, your family empire. I use empire a lot because everybody's got their own definition of what their empire will be, what's important to them, what's important to their family. I've got a client that I've helped build countless units, countless brands. He is building currently for his grandchildren. And soon he'll be building for his great-grandchildren. His children are still in elementary school. He's already into future generations that haven't even been born yet. He and his wife are set for life. His kids are set for life. He's building for the generations after them. Scale. They travel anywhere they want, anytime they want, and their business runs. A friend of mine runs and founded the largest business coaching franchise in the world. And he said there's two simple ways to know if what you do every day is a job or a business. Here is two rules. Number one, it can run without you there. You've built the business, you've built your team, the team is in place, the business is operating, and you check in on it. Sounds like that semi-absentee, right? He worked a lot of hours and days before he handed it off to his team, his business. So it runs without you there. Rule number one. Second one, you can sell it when you're done. You have built an asset. It's like owning your home versus renting your home. If I ask people, would you rather own or rent your home? Almost invariably, they will say, I want to own my home. And if I ask them why, Because I'm building an asset. But most people build the asset in their home, but they rent the income that pays the mortgage. As an employee, while they're building one asset for themselves, they're building another asset for somebody else. And the somebody else asset is actually the bigger asset. They're taking the little asset. Build the right asset. Build it for yourself. Build it for your family. Scale is how we do that. So wherever you start, if you start with the little mom and pop franchise, you can still build an empire. If you come in the door and you start with multi-units, multi-territories, multi-brands, we can still build an empire. It's going to come down to the game plan. And you're going to need somebody that knows how to build these empires, starting from wherever you're starting, with whatever model you're starting with, whatever space you want to go into, that knows how to build those empires. Now, as you scale, somewhere along the way, I hope from the beginning, private equity is going to be part of your thought process. Because private equity, we saw coming into the franchise world 15, 20 years ago in just discovering us from the franchisor level. They bought franchise companies that were well developed, had happy franchisees, had a lot of happy franchisees, making a lot of money. Private equity would come in and buy these franchise brands. Right behind us in this speaking area today, this Keynote area, is Neighborly Brands. At Neighborly Brands, as the Dwyer Group, it's a portion of what is now Neighborly Brands, many, many, many years ago. I have friends that worked there before I even knew of them. Over the years, they grew new brands, they merged with new brands, they built a big company, and they've been acquired by private equity. But the cool part over the years is now they've got big empire-building franchisees that have also been bought by private equity. See, this is part of what we can now consider as part of the franchise empire building program for somebody. Now, if you're going to do that, you want to start from the beginning or from early on, considering, well, if I'm going to build an empire, what kind of empire would private equity want to buy? Because they don't necessarily want every franchise company out there or every space. Private equity likes recession resistance. They like repeat income. They like big pools of happy, wildly successful franchisees with brands that they would buy the brand if it was available. And I've had candidates with those types of businesses get life-changing offers in that process. Life-changing offers. To the point they don't have to work anymore. So build for private equity. See, I think for a lot of these franchisees that have been bought by private equity, they just happened to be in those businesses when private equity showed up. Now that we know that private equity will consider franchisees, start considering that from the beginning. Build the right businesses, build the right portfolio to be attractive to the buyers in the market. Build the right machine. It's about time to go walk that expo floor. Stay for Steve after me. He's a great guy, rock star in the franchise world. But it's about time to go walk that franchise floor. You're going to see some of the hardest working people in franchising on this floor. Ask them questions. Know your why. And then ask them why a lot. Ask them about their business. Ask the details. Not just the cocktail party answers that you get when you first walk up and say, tell me about your business. Ask the detailed questions. Remember scale. Remember that you want to be a CEO. Remember private equity. Remember your model, not your consumer preference. Go build your empire. I am here for you. If you need anything, you call or email. I will not send you a bill. It's not how we operate. I believe in you. I'm going to leave you with one quote, one last quote. The universe conspired, if you think about it, to put you right now, right here in this room. Now off you go. We're all waiting on you. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been my sincere honor to spend this time with you today. Thank you. And again, I want to thank the IFA and Fordham International for the opportunity they provided me to help you. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is George Knauf, myperfectfranchise.com. Have a lovely day. Bye for now.